It is now time for our annual Class Action Hall of Fame, where we take a break from lawyers and we focus on the folks who really make our cases happen. So, Teddy.
Hi, everyone. My name's Teddy Basham-Witherington. I serve here as the Deputy Director of the Impact Fund. And the Impact Fund created the Class Action Hall of Fame in 2016 to honor the courage and the sacrifice of lead plaintiffs whose commitment and determination has led to significant advances in economic, environmental, racial, and social justice. And here to tell us a little bit more is the Impact Fund Board Chair, Dina Sharp.
I'm sure you're all sick of me by now, and don't clap for me. And I think that the plaintiffs who I'm so privileged to get to introduce really need no introduction to everybody in this room, because if there's a room full of people who understand how important our clients are, I mean, we just heard from the front how important our clients are, how we rely on them. In fact, without them, of course, there is no us. And so we all know that lead plaintiffs not only commit to put themselves out there, but spend the time, sometimes years, sometimes decades, with us as lawyers to ensure that we can achieve justice as best we can for them. They communicate the value of civil rights. They communicate the value of class actions. They help us brush back the messaging of the Chamber of Commerce. The Hall of Fame idea came out of all the conversations that we've had in settings like this. We all got a chance to talk to each other about how we could best honor the people who make this all possible. We requested nominations this year, just like we have for several years. It was so difficult to make these choices. Thank you all for making the nominations that you did. And now I'll turn it back over to Teddy.
Thank you, Dina. So today we honor John Baxley Jr., Donna Wells Wright, Heather Reed, Earl Edmondson, and Joshua Hall, who challenged the inhuman way that health care was not being provided to people in West Virginia's jails. Their victory resulted in the 10 regional jails now meeting new contract requirements, ensuring the people incarcerated in West Virginia receive the health care to which they are entitled by law. Unfortunately, they cannot be with us here today because they're still inside. But here to accept the award on their behalf and say a few words is Leslie Nash from Mountain State Justice. Photo time.
Okay, just one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. As Teddy said, my name is Leslie Nash. I am a staff attorney at Mountain State Justice, which is a nonprofit legal services organization in West Virginia. And I'm here to accept this award on behalf of our 5 incredible class reps in Baxley versus Jividen, which again was a case that fought to establish better medical and mental health care in West Virginia's 10 regional jails. I wish our class reps could be here themselves, but it is my honor to accept this award on their behalf, as it was and has been my honor to work with them in both the litigation and settlement stages of our case. So John, Earl, Joshua, Heather, and Donna represent a class of all people who are or will be incarcerated in West Virginia's 10 regional jails. As class reps, they all acted fearlessly and selflessly to raise the alarm about the very poor level of health care being provided at the jails, and fought for better health care for themselves, others in the jails, and everyone who might someday be in a West Virginia jail, which in West Virginia is a lot of people. Each of our class reps faced a different struggle accessing the care they needed. For Donna, it was waiting up to 2 weeks to receive her medications for her high blood pressure, COPD, and emphysema. For Heather, it was being taken off of her specialized insulin and being placed on insulin that caused her to black out regularly. For Mr. Baxley, who is our named plaintiff in this case, it was being taken off of his antipsychotic meds and then being placed in segregation when he understandably acted out following being removed from his medication. Despite these different circumstances, each of these incredible advocates responded in the same way, by fighting to make sure that care for everyone in the jails improved. This is particularly inspiring when you consider that each of these individuals was still incarcerated when they began advocating for change. And if you've ever had any interaction with the criminal, legal, or carceral system, you understand the risks that our class reps undertook by doing so. Under our settlement agreement that exists thanks to our class reps' commitment and determination, the West Virginia Division of Corrections is being required to implement and review the provision of a higher level of care. We, as Mountain State Justice, continue its role as class counsel. We are also acting to review the implementation of this contract. We're staying deeply engaged with our class members and regularly check in with our class reps. As anyone, again, who's had any interaction with this system knows, advocating for civil rights in prisons and jails is an uphill battle, and for no one more so than the people on the inside who are fighting not for a courtroom win, but for their rights, their dignity, their health, and all too often for their lives. Donna, Heather, John, Earl, and Josh have been an inspiration not just to me, but to the whole team at Mountain State Justice. Their nomination to the Hall of Fame is well deserved, and I am absolutely thrilled to share their stories today. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Dina.
Today, we're also so fortunate to honor Kelly Ellis, Heidi Lamar, Holly Pease, and Kelly Wasuri, named plaintiffs in the class action Ellis versus Google, who challenged gender discrimination on behalf of 17,000 women at the tech giant. Their sacrifice and determination resulted in substantial settlements and a 3-year consent decree during which Google gets to clean up its act, we hope, regarding equal pay for equal work. With us today to accept the award and say a few words are Kelly and Holly. I'd like to welcome them to the stage.
Thank you so much. On behalf of my fellow named plaintiffs, Holly, Heidi, and Kelly, I want to thank all of you for selecting us for the Hall of Fame. We'd especially like to thank our legal teams at Altshuler, Burzon, and Leaf, Cabraser, Hyman, and Bernstein. Jim Finberg and Kelly Dermody led an incredible team that not only supported our legal claims, but also demonstrated real empathy for our experiences and really made us feel seen and heard. Really exceeded my expectations of what a lawyer could and would do. Each of us held different positions in different orgs at Google, and each of us wondered many times if we were alone in our experiences of discrimination. But in pursuing this lawsuit, we learned that we weren't, and we were able to unite in a goal to hold Google accountable to the thousands of women who experienced discrimination for years. We aimed to make the injunctive relief impactful and long-lasting, and Jim and Kelly and the rest of the team supported us in this goal. Google's an industry giant, and in taking steps to rectify the unequal treatment of women there, they influence the entire industry. So while we're proud that the settlement provided some financial compensation for the 17,000 women in the class, we really hope that our outcome will have a broader impact for women in the tech industry and women in the workplace as a whole. Thank you again for this honor and for all of the great work that you do here.
Thank you, Kelly and Holly. Next, we honor Robin Hall and Stephen Summers, named plaintiffs in the case Hall v. USDA. They challenged a pernicious interpretation by the Trump administration of the CARES Act. The end result of the litigation was 12 million people receiving an additional $95 per month in emergency food benefits to help weather the impact of the COVID pandemic. And here with us today are Robin and Stephen.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you again. Rebecca Miller and I, formerly of the Impact Fund, and Rebecca Miller from Western Center on Law and Poverty. We're humbled to be up here today honoring Robin Hall and Stephen Summers, our two class representatives in Hall versus U.S. Department of Agriculture. Robin and Steve represented a class of some 1 million California households in a case that Western Center and the Impact Fund brought in 2020 to challenge a cruel regulation from the Trump administration that denied emergency SNAP benefits to the people who needed it the most. I met Robin in early March 2020 when the world was shutting down and COVID-19 was spiraling out of control. At the time, Robin was living and working at a homeless facility supported by Catholic Charities in Santa Rosa and couldn't get enough food to eat, with grocery stores shutting down and food banks bare. She sometimes had to forego eating meals. She needed those emergency SNAP benefits. From the get-go, Robin told me that she wanted to help people like her. She was so committed to having her story represent the story of millions of low-income people. I worked with Robin throughout the 10-month litigation, even while we were all sheltering in place, until we reached a landmark settlement. Thanks to Robin and Stephen, some 12 million people received an additional $95 per month in emergency food benefits to help families weather the COVID pandemic. And I've seen Robin's commitment to low-income people and homeless people grow even more. She's now a full-time employee working with homeless folks at Catholic Charities. She now has a permanent home, and she's a grandmother. I'm so proud of the work of Robin and Steve, and I'm so touched that she trusted me to tell her story.
Stephen Summers is a long-term advocate for food security and SNAP, stemming from his own personal experience with unemployment and homelessness after the Great Recession in 2018. In 2020, he was about to start a job helping organize Hunger Action Day after COVID hit. Everything went into lockdown. His job was put on hold and then canceled, and Stephen again had to turn to unemployment and SNAP to get by. Stephen was a natural class representative because of his personal experience and years of advocacy work. When we spoke, he would share insightful observations about the lawsuit and how it fit in with the history of SNAP and the political landscape. I was continuously inspired by Stephen's bottomless generosity to help others who were struggling financially, as people had helped him when he had first had to rely on public benefits. Behind his low-key demeanor is a wicked sense of humor and a ferocity to stand up against injustices, like he did in this case. Thank you, Stephen and Robin, for sharing your stories and for participating in the Hall versus USDA case that helped so many people in California and across the country. In just 1 minute, Stephen's going to share a couple words.
Yeah, wow, thank you. Hall of Fame. I never thought those words in me would appear in the same sentence. Thank you, Impact Fund, for this award. Thank you, Rebecca and Western Center, for nominating me, and Robin, I'm sure I speak for her. Working on this case has been very gratifying. I was really impressed with the determination and perseverance of Robin and her team in seeing this case through all the way to the end. So I would like to thank them for that. being a part of this case has been really gratifying because I know I've helped so many people and continues to resonate. I'd also like to give a shout out to, none of them are here, to the people who got me started in advocacy and volunteering in the anti-hunger space many years ago. They started me on the path that's kind of led me to this point. So I owe them a debt. I'm very gratified and proud to have been a part of this case. Thanks again.
Thank you, Robin, and Stephen, and Dina.
In the case Scholl versus Mnuchin, the bad old days, Colin Scholl and Lisa Strawn challenged the denial by the Trump administration of CARES Act assistance to people who were incarcerated. The litigation culminated in a $1.5 billion payout to class members in one of the largest transfers of funds to a purposefully disenfranchised population ever secured through a private class litigation. Here with us today are Lisa and Colin.
Hello, everyone. What an honor to be up here right now. I can tell you, when this case began, I had almost 17 years incarcerated in the Department of Corrections and had filed 54 habeas corpus petitions for various violations of my rights and the rights of my fellows over the course of that time. And it was rare that I ever had anything heard on its merits. I just was a perpetual, fight in procedure. So when this happened, Leif Cabraser-Hyman, Kelly, and Yaman presented me with this case. I was floored by the effects that it had in the administration and the culture of the Department of Corrections. The ultimate result and most important effects of this case were not the material benefits that everyone received in the stimulus money. It was a change in the paradigm of the correctional administration. They were forced then, at that moment of the ruling, to see us as people, which they had never done before. They were forced to acknowledge the fact that we were people that were entitled to the same rights and privileges and treatment as anyone else in society. And that effect was tremendous. It not only affected the administration and the rank and file of the prison guards, but most importantly, the prisoners themselves. They were able to see that they had value, and that value was acknowledged by people in society. They were able to see that the courts, although indifferent to almost everything else we filed, in this case, acknowledged that we were right, that we are entitled to these protections, that we do have rights, that we do matter, and that people do care. And that shifted so many of the people's perception that I lived with. And many of these people were hopeless. I was on a level 4, 180, like the highest level security, because I was a vexatious litigant. So I'm proud of that, but they didn't like it. So they put me with people that were the most recalcitrant. And these people were there with life without the possibility, parole, multiple life sentences. These people were hopeless, They were hopeless because they felt like they had no value and no one cared. And this changed that. And it had very, very far-reaching effects. Now, you know, they're receiving a lot of other benefits like earned income, and it set a precedence that opened the door for many other benefits too. So that's.
Thank you, Stephen.
So I'm not going to top Colin, but I am here to say thank you to everyone at the Impact Fund. This is extremely, I'm so humbled. Give me a second. Yeah, so I want to thank everyone at, especially Kelly Jermoody and Jali Jaffa, who's not here today because I bugged her like crazy. So for everyone in this room who does not know, I'm trans woman, and I was incarcerated in California for 25 years, and I spent all my time at different levels of prisons, level 4, level 3, level 2, and I also got COVID, right? 3 weeks before I was to be released. I've been out 3 years now, and I've done really, really well. I did really well in prison. I did amazing things in prison. But so back to Jali Jaffa. So my role really in this was, I was very instrumental on all forms of social media. So every time people had questions on social media about the stimulus checks, I would contact Jali, and so we were just always in contact. And I was keeping thousands and thousands of people enlightened on everything that was going on the case, and you know how to do the forms. And so we were actually sending forms into prisons throughout the country as well. So yeah, I'm extremely honored because I'm looking at this room, and I already knew what this room was going to look like when I walked into it, because I walk into these spaces all the time, and I don't see anyone who looks like me, and I don't see a lot of people of color in this room. And for me, that is a big concern, and that is something that we all need to think about when we leave this room today. If we don't have inclusion, then we need to sit down. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa and Colin. And Dina.
Feel free. I'm going to stand right there. Stand right here. Thank you. Okay. And finally, Selena Scola, Gabriel Ramos, and Aaron Elder in the case Scola versus Facebook challenged the lack of protection offered to content moderators who are responsible for viewing and removing offensive content and disturbing content from Facebook. If you see a beheading, it affects you. And content moderators were traumatized, suffering from PTSD. And it was a groundbreaking settlement that was reached that resulted in substantial workplace improvements, paved the way for similar suits against YouTube and TikTok. And here with us today are Selena, Gabriel, and Aaron.
Hi, good afternoon. This is such an honor, and I feel very humbled to have been even nominated for this. It was such a surprise. When I signed on to this case, I just wanted better work conditions for my friends that I worked with. And this job of content moderation was this new thing that no one really knew about. And we were just viewing some of the most awful things on the internet. And so I'm just really grateful that I got to walk this path with both Gabriel and Selena. And I'd like to thank the Joseph Saveri Law Team for their skillful guidance, because I didn't know what I was doing. So, so thank you.
Thank you very much for this honor. Like Aaron, I came out of nowhere, and I'm happy to be here. It's been a long journey to get to this point and for accountability of Facebook. And I prepared a few words. A content moderator is first and foremost a person. Facebook's lack of accountability made it imperative for us to speak up, to demand changes that took into account the humanity of the individual risking so much to benefit the social media platform. And I'd really like to thank Selena for starting this and Aaron for supporting, and all of us together. Thank you so much.
I want to thank Aaron and Gabriel. Without them, the case, I wouldn't have had any support, and it just would have been me alone saying that this job did harm to everyone who works it. I'd also like to thank Stephen Williams, the Severi law firm Burns & Kress LLP from co-counsel, and Moist and Associates, representing the plaintiffs, for their support. Without their trust in me and believing that what I was saying was true, Facebook would not have been held accountable. Due to this case, it's had global impact. Former content moderator Chris Gray in Ireland has launched a case which is still in the courts. Daniel Montag in South Africa is currently working to hold Facebook accountable for human rights violations in South Africa. And Facebook is a local Bay company and also a multinational corporation that needs to be accountable globally for their crimes and for the imposition that they have put us in. Sorry. Let's see. Unfortunately, we still are unable to reach the content moderators in the Philippines. They suffer the worst. And content moderator highlights complex global problems from terrorism to insurgency to child endangerment, misinformation, online scams. The premature death and the erosion of the mental health of our youth. And and until computer vision, artificial intelligence, and machine learning technologies are able to classify, identify, and remove content from the web, humans are still going to be in the loop doing these jobs and still being damaged. And long-term cost is to your nervous system and your mental health, and actually changes your DNA. I greatly appreciate the recognition of the Impact Fund. This is the first time I've spoken public to the press or anyone about this outside of my friends or my legal team. So thank you, and this award will continue to help the people who have not spoken up yet.
Thank you. Let's hear it for our class of 2023.